Howdy ho, howdy ho, howdy, howdy ho. Mommy, can I go home now? Am I allowed to go home? And the answer, my friends, is no. The answer is no. So yeah, the power is still out our house. It's Friday now, so it's officially been over 2 weeks since the power dropped at my house. And no idea when we will get the power back. If you look at a picture of Modford, the neighborhood that I'm in, it is mostly back online. But then there are these weird little slivers where people don't have power. And guess what? I'm in the weird little sliver. Again, for us, it makes it oh so annoying because we have something called a sewer pump. All the sewage, all the water in our house goes down to like this 100-gallon tank that's in the ground, and then a sewage pump has to spin up to send it up to the sewer line. So when we don't have power, we don't get to poop. So some people, what they say is if you don't have water, because we still don't have water, go down to the river, get river water, and then you can flush your toilet, which is fine for them. Because when they flush their toilet, their crap goes somewhere else. When I flush my toilet, it goes to a tank at the bottom of the house. And if there's no power to move it back up to the sewer line, then the bottom of our house will end up being full of poop. So yeah, do you remember? Bad designs default to bad outcomes. Good designs default to good outcomes. And sewer pumps, they're about the stupidest frickin' design you could come up with. Oh my golly. So anyways, yeah, we're still here in Raleigh. So we have this Airbnb here in Raleigh. Yay. Look at the opulence. Look at the opulence. Anyways, I guess it's nice enough. We're around their university area here, which is pretty good. I go out on my runs. All snark aside, Raleigh has terrific greenways. I know some of you all out there say I don't say anything nice about anything. I do. If it's nice, I say nice things about it. The greenways here are terrific. So I think on Wednesday I ran 4 miles on the Greenway, pushed it out to 5 miles yesterday, pushed it out to 6 miles today. It's probably Monday I'll try to push it out to like 7 or 8, hopefully get up to 9 miles. So I can still run. Running here is fabulous because they've got air, oxygen at basically sea level. I can't tell you, it's weird. You go running here, it just feels like you're breathing on clouds. Just feels absolutely terrific. Let's see, beyond that, I've been going to the meetups and everything here. Those have been fabulous. The people here seem really nice. I gotta say, if you want to stay in North Carolina and you're interested in the tech industry, I would definitely say think about trying to get this whole Research Triangle area. I went to a meetup in Durham a couple days ago. I went to a meetup, I guess, right outside of Raleigh the day before yesterday. And then I went to a meetup in Chapel Hill, or an event in Chapel Hill last night. And I have to say, everybody here, all snark aside, really good. And you actually have real tech conversations, which is nice. Oh my God, you can talk about more things about AI than simply ChatGPT prompts. Yes, there's more to AI than ChatGPT prompts. And it's really nice to be around people that are interested in those things. But no, actually, I mean, they're very, I really gotta say, everybody here seems to be very open, very nice. It's a very, very nice tech community. I'm not sure what to do with that. I'm not sure what to do with it. But yeah, no, everybody seems basically pretty lovely here. The area is not too big, so when we talk about the triangle, I'm not really quite sure where the triangle is, to be honest with you. But anyways, like Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. The thing is, they're not too far apart. So like Durham's like, I don't know, 20 miles from Raleigh, and Chapel Hill's like 25 miles from Raleigh. But they have something that I forgot about in Asheville called rush hour. Holy bat crap. Going to Chapel Hill yesterday from Raleigh in rush hour, that was not amusing. Let me save my snark for that. Oh, hell. That was just absolutely awful. But yeah, so that's one thing to think about if you come to this area. Everything seems relatively close together, and they got big highways. They got big, beautiful highways and interstates. But as all those eco warriors say, the bigger you make the highways, the more people go on the highways. Ergo, the highways always suck. Which I do believe in this area kind of proves that particular point. Because you're like, wow, look at these nice big highways. And then it gets to be rush hour, and everybody's going 5 miles an hour on those nice big highways. So yeah, that's basically what's going on here. If you're in Asheville in Western North Carolina, I'm gonna hate to break this to you, but I don't really think people actually care about us. That sounds mean. Probably also pretty accurate. It's weird. I've talked with people saying like I'm an Asheville refugee, and yeah, people are polite about it. People are definitely polite about it. But yeah, I kind of like the way that I think about it, right? Is when your dog dies, it's a tragedy, and when your friend's dog dies, you're sad for him. That's basically it. Our dog died, so we're crying, and everybody's like, oh, is your city dead? Oh, that must suck. It is weird. It is a very, very weird thing. It was like, because that's a thing, right? We had Helene come through and devastate us. And then right in the back of that, you have Milton. So then everybody starts worrying about Milton. Milton. And then Milton's over, and they're all off to the next thing. Again, I don't really know how to feel about that. Just kind of is as it is. But it is kind of interesting. It is kind of interesting. We have a very short memory here in the United States. I always think about that with September 11th, right? We won't forget. I feel like we have to keep saying we won't forget because we all kind of know we will forget. It's kind of like, a 7-year-old kid, something happens to a 7-year-old kid, and you're like, don't forget this. They're like, I won't forget. And then like 5 minutes later, they forgot. I kind of feel like that's how we are as a country. I actually think that's a good thing. To be clear, like weirdly enough, I think that's a good thing as a society. It just kind of sucks when something bad happens to you. Because it's good as a society, because you keep moving on. Like you look at all these crappy societies all around the world, and they're still arguing about shit that happened 1,000 years ago. Again, like in the Middle East, oh my God, I actually saw somebody say this with a straight fucking face. Like with what's going on, I won't get into the Middle East. And they were talking about like what happened 500 years ago. They're like, well, the reason that this is okay is because 500 years ago, something else happened. And you're like, oh my God, Jesus Christ. If we're able to condone our actions because of crap that happened 500 years ago, I really do not see how we move forward. So I do have to say the nice thing about the United States, man, we don't fucking remember what happened 2 weeks ago. It's like, oh yeah. Yeah, I feel like I heard a city kind of got wiped off the map. Whatever happened to that city? We're still here. Still don't have water. Still don't have electricity. Still don't have internet. Still kind of wiped off the map. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyways, it's a hell of a thing to have a disaster of that level hit your city. I have seen some people out there, they're like, why didn't people prepare more? I don't really know what to tell anybody. Because it's like, well, like, if you were in a desert, you probably wouldn't prepare for a tsunami. Like, people are like, why didn't you prepare more for this hurricane? Because we're like Western North Carolina. We're in the middle of the mountains. Like, you don't get hurricanes in the middle of our mountains. You may get rainstorms and that kind of thing. But yeah, we just thought it was rain. And it is interesting too. Like, it started raining on Wednesday. So it started downpouring on Wednesday and it poured on Thursday. And it was just rain. It is weird. Like it rained. It rained a lot. And then it was like Friday morning is when all hell broke loose. And again, the flooding and everything else. It's so weird. Again, we had days of rain. And it all seemed kind of normal. And again, when I went down to the French Broad River, to see what the flooding was like, I don't know. I thought there was going to be like some water in the White Duck parking lot. Again, if you don't know these areas, whatever. But like when you get flooding down there, it's like, oh, White Duck, their parking lot will get flooded or something like that. I didn't expect half of White Duck to be going down the street at 40 miles an hour. That just wasn't something I was considering. So yeah, like I say, that morning, 8:30 in the morning, I was texting this guy Steve, and I was like, oh look, I think the cafe where we're supposed to meet, the power went out. Where else should we get coffee? That's literally what we were doing. That was literally what we were doing until all hell broke loose. And so yeah, there's people out there like, why weren't you more prepared? And again, good point. Again, I don't know, I feel like everybody nowadays is so damn self-righteous. It's like, yeah, okay, look, we probably should have been, but we weren't. And none of us were. Like, some people had filled up their tubs simply because we have a really crappy water system. And so, but nobody expected the interstates to get wiped out. Because that's the other thing, too. It's like, okay, right, even if there's a storm, even if there's a hurricane, oh, you're going to get a lot of rain. Maybe the power will go out. We weren't expecting the damn water lines. Because again, if you look at these pictures where the water lines were, the main water lines were 25 feet underground. You got to scour down and rip those things out. Nobody was expecting that. Or again, like, even if you had to get water or whatever, then you just go to the fucking store, right? Okay, now you're going to spend $2 a gallon on water. It sucks. Whatever. We weren't expecting interstates to go the hell away. Again, the amount of... Because again, that's the thing. Like, oh, there's a disaster. But it's not... Like, we don't have, storm surges. We don't have storm surges. You don't really, like where we're at, you don't get tornadoes. Like, yeah. So anyways, good for you. If you've got 1,000 days worth of water and food in your house, good for you. Actually, that's the worst part. Again, we don't have good memories. We will all have our supplies of emergency rations or whatever for, like a year or so, basically until they expire. And then they'll go in the trash, and then we'll forget about it because we're in the mountains and hurricanes don't hit the mountains. Anyways, yeah, so I've been seeing a lot of that kind of crap. Yeah, I just don't know what to tell those people. It's like, how prepared are you? Because think about it, like with generators, people are like, why don't you have a generator? So I'm almost 50 now. I'm getting really close to 50. I have been on my own. I've been an adult for 30 years now. I have almost never even needed to think about a generator. Again, everybody likes to complain about the American infrastructure. But it's kind of like the way to show you actually how pretty good the American infrastructure is by how much people don't really try to mitigate problems with it. And that's the thing. Like, again, have I had power go out for like a day or so? Yeah. It's like, fuck me, it's like every 5 years or something. Maybe. And then if the power does go out, you might have some major issues. Uh, so it's like, why don't you have a generator? Oh, I'm gonna buy a $500 generator. I'm gonna have to make sure like the gaskets and all that kind of stuff don't rot out. I'm gonna have to make sure I have the gasoline for it. If you can get the gasoline when the disaster hits, all on the off chance another hurricane is gonna hit the mountains. I don't know. We're gonna be chopping down a lot of trees around our house. Trees are gonna go. Trees are gonna go. Anyways, once we chop down those trees, think about putting solar panels. We might, depending on what we do with Asheville, we might put solar panels up. So you put solar panels up with a battery backup solution, and then basically that does give you power, a decent amount of power. So we might be doing that. But yeah, I don't know. My wife wants a generator. It's like, okay, we're gonna buy this thing that we're really pretty much never gonna use. And I would just point out to people, if this is about climate change, industrial production creates the crap that goes into the air that creates climate change. So at scale, if everybody starts buying crap that they don't really need, and then is essentially gonna go on the shelf until it rots and expires, all of that has to be produced. So the production of the crap that we're just going to put on the shelves to expire is going to add to climate change. I hate to point out reality or anything. Yes, we should definitely buy a generator that we're most likely never going to use. Anyways. Yeah, what do you gotta say? Again, the Asheville folks is funny with all this stuff with it being a climate haven. Never understood that. Climate sanctuary, I guess it's called. I feel bad for those people. I mean, they were dumb. They were dumb. But I still feel bad for them. Because I think that's a weird thing, like with climate, right? You get all the smart people. You get all the smart people talking about climate sanctuaries and all that kind of stuff. And then you kind of realize they're not really that smart, because that's not really how the climate works. It's not really how the climate works, right? There's weather, right? There's weather events, and there's climate. And one of the things, if you actually listen to the climate scientists, is they're not really sure how weather and climate in specific areas, are going to be affected as time goes by. So one of the things I think about, like with Western North Carolina, everybody says it's a climate sanctuary because we have a river. And it's like, yeah, but I don't know. Did you ever bother to actually look at a river, our river, the French Broad River? So the French Broad River, when it rains a lot, gets pretty high. And when it doesn't rain, like if it doesn't rain for like a month, it gets really low. It gets shockingly low, to be honest with you. And so one of the funny things to think about is, again, with climate change, if weather patterns change, like what would happen if we didn't get rain for 6 months? Which seems very reasonable. Again, if we're talking about climate change, it seems reasonable. And then what happens if a rainforest, wait for it, if a rainforest starts drying out after 6 months to a year of basically no rain? And then what happens when all the houses have been put into the tree line because people felt comfortable because it was basically a rainforest? So now you have a dry rainforest where all the houses in the city and everything have been built into the tree line. And then somebody sets off a firecracker. It seems to me, I mean, I'm just a dipshit with a webcam. Seems to me that would be a bad time. It seems like it would be a bad time. It seems like it wouldn't take a lot to turn Western North Carolina into the wildfire hellhole that is California. And, it seems like if you actually paid attention to this whole climate science, you'd realize that fact. But maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. So I'll be curious. I'm going to be curious to see what happens with Asheville after all this. Because again, we had all these people come because it's supposed to be a climate sanctuary. And again, on the face of it, that's fucking stupid. That was dumb. That was smart people being dumb. Or maybe dumb people pretending to be smart, one or the other. So now that this has happened, I will be curious what happens to all those Californians and everybody. Or if they think this is just a one-off event, and then they're really horrified when the wildfires come. I don't know, just put a tag on this video. Just put a tag on this video. And like 10 years from now, when we get ravaged by wildfires, be like, huh, I remember there's this jackass with a webcam. I was talking about climate. Anywho, so yeah, things to ponder. I do wonder what's going to be happening with the psyche of Asheville. I don't know. I've been through a lot of weird crap. I've already dealt with my PTSD. You know the nice thing about having dealt with your PTSD and actually dealt with your PTSD, and I just fucking buried it, is that when new disasters happen, it's easier to roll with the punches. But I do wonder, like, what's going to happen, like, with the psyche of Asheville. Because the psyche of Asheville was, like, so hippy-dippy, happy, and all that crap. You know, we just had 200 people die, basically, in our area. Well, it's like 250 people are now confirmed dead, and that shit's gonna go way the hell through the roof. Again, it's a very inaccessible, weird area. You cannot tell me 250 people is the limit of the dead. And so now that we have these people, now we have so many people that were living their lives and doing their thing, and all of a sudden, everything went to hell. I do wonder what is the psychology of the area going to be? I was talking to somebody about that the other day. I wasn't talking to somebody about that, but that's just being me. Oh, don't be me sometimes. Anyways, then I was talking about these areas that have just been erased. Just fucking erased. Not destroyed, right? There's destroyed. There are areas that have been destroyed. And there are other areas that have just been erased. And then I noticed I was talking to this person, and I was like, oh, they seem to be getting uncomfortable. I should probably stop saying this. I talked about my wife about it to my wife about it later, and they're like, yeah, Eli, people are going to have some hard times with this. And yeah, I was like, oh, crap. I have to be careful. Not everybody appreciates black humor. Oh, anyways, right? It's like all this stuff happens, and for a lot of people, this is their introduction to what I call reality, right? What do you mean you can wake up in the morning and have a hot cup of coffee, and an hour later your city can be destroyed? It's like, well, it's called reality. I don't know what to tell people. But I think a lot of people are psychologically, right? Because that's the thing, like with a lot of us. I mean, think about how many people died that were probably not in much of a different position than I was, right? Again, I'm not some fucking superhero or something. I just live in a pretty modern house that was in a good location. How many people out there were having their little cups of coffee, they're doing their little texting, and then a wall of mud just... And that's the thing, right? Like you look at drug addicts, and drug addicts die. You can be moral and moralize about it. Or you look at somebody that falls over from a heart attack and you can moralize about it. Or you see an old person die, and again, you can conceptualize it in your mind. It's a lot harder for a lot of folks to think, oh, you mean you can wake up in the morning and be enjoying a hot cup of coffee and a wall of mud can just end you? What? It's like, yeah, y'all didn't realize that. God damn, you live boring lives. Can I live your life, please? Please? Be no nice. Anyways, so yeah, I do wonder, like, what is the psychology going to be there with all of these? Because I feel like a lot of people that moved to Asheville, especially recently, were kind of broken already. Like Asheville is a weird thing for broken people. It was one of those things that I didn't know when we moved there, and does concern me. Like needle usage. Like when my wife and I moved there, we were from Baltimore, and like they do crack or whatever, but whatever. Right? They don't leave it everywhere. Like the amount of needles that were on the ground, like just needles on the ground, is just huge. And that's one of the things I noticed too with a lot of people that moved there, is they just seem to have like a lot of psychological issues. And again, not being snarky, not being mean about it, but there's a lot of just depression and like weirdness. I've kind of talked about that before. Just kind of like broken people that were trying to remake their life in Asheville for some reason. And I do wonder, like, what's this kind of event going to do to the minds of so many of those people, right? You know, what happens when you take people that are broken already and you explicitly show them, you know, things like walls of mud exist? I don't know, I'd be curious. I was thinking about that with a friend of ours, because I guess a friend of ours, so Swannanoa, so you may hear Swannanoa. So Swannanoa, so most of the disaster that happened in Asheville actually happened in like an industrial business district. Not saying no residences in Asheville were affected, but most of them, we're talking about River Arts District, we're talking about the River District, it was mostly commercial stuff. And then the power and water, that's its own deal. But there's like Swannanoa. So Swannanoa is up the road from us, and there's Black Mountain that's up the road. Those are actually those are places really where people live. And we had a buddy of ours that was up in Swannanoa. And I mean, he was there for, you know, sipping his cup of coffee all the way up until he wasn't. And yeah, I mean, like he had to leave. He just had to leave. He did what he needed to do. And then he was like, I can't deal with this. You know, with all that devastation that he saw. And it's like, yeah, how many people are going to leave because they can't, you know, because that's the whole thing, like, you know, psychology with, you know, you get these things in your head, I get these ideas, we talk about words and things. There's a story that goes along with it. So you think about Asheville or whatever, and up until 2 weeks ago, you had the story about it, you know, artsy or progressive or fucking morons in the mountains, whatever you thought, right? You had this idea, and then this disaster happens, and all of a sudden, how do you see that exact same place, right? Zig Ziglar says you sell the sizzle, not the steak. What happens when you see the steak, you know, get dropped in the toilet? And then, you know, they're washing off the steak and they put it on your plate. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're looking at a steak, you think about steak. Oh, I want a steak. And then they bring out the steak, and it's beautiful, and it's got all the char lines and all that kind of stuff in your water, right? You have the story of that steak. What if instead you watch the person bring out the steak, accidentally drop the steak into the toilet, take it out of the toilet really quick, wash it off, and put it on the plate in front of you. Now it looks like a normal steak. It smells like a normal steak. And when you look at it, you want to vomit. Like, is that Asheville? How many people will be able to look at Asheville again and not want to, you know, dry heave? It's an interesting question. How many people are going to want to risk Asheville? That's one of the things my wife has been talking about. Again, I don't know. I think this is a one-off. I don't know if it's every 100 years, every once in a while event. Again, you know, we've been talking about, it's like, well, they're going to armor up. They're supposedly reinforcing the water lines. Again, the one good thing about all these trees falling over is it's fewer trees to fall over in the future. Anyways, I don't know. Again, I want my water and electricity back. But I feel like once that stuff comes back, it'll be fine enough. But that's one thing about my wife is like, can we tolerate this risk going into the future? And that's a real question to ask. I don't know what the hell the answer is. Again, my answer to her is anywhere you go, there's going to be a risk. Again, we go to Colorado, could be wildfires or drought. Could go to the Northeast, and they get floods and hurricanes too. We're not going west because they're already in the middle of the shit. Anyways, it's like, that's my thing. It's like anywhere we go, there's going to be a risk. But for her, again, it's like we've seen how truly vulnerable this area of the world is that a tolerable risk? And I'll be curious to see what people decide with that going in the future. What'll the answer be? I don't know. Some people have asked, are we staying? For the foreseeable, we're staying. Again, because we bought our house. We bought our house. I feel like the Gen Zers are never going to buy a house in their life. They're going to see what happened to the baby boomers and the Gen Xers and the millennials. And they're going to be like, wow, buying houses is dumb. But anyways, yeah, we bought our house. So we own it. We own it. We own our beautiful house that smells like shit right now. So yeah, we're there for the foreseeable. I'm going to give it like a year. I think after this disaster, I mean, it's going to take a year bare minimum to get the bare minimum clean up. Again, I don't think people fucking grasp what the hell happened. You know, there's ignorant people, like there's so there's ignorance, so there's stupidity is when you've been taught something and you don't remember it. Ignorance is when you just don't know. And I feel like we have a lot of ignorant people that just do not grasp what the hell just happened. Because I hear that from a lot of people. It's like, well, insurance will cover it. It's like, what the fuck are you... yes, insurance will cover something. Insurance will cover something. But again, like we're looking at like the mall. So the mall took no damage. The mall basically took no damage. There's no trees. It's up on a high place. Whatever, roads to it are fine. And it's going to be shut down for a month. It's shut down for 30 days simply because no electricity and water. So this is a set of businesses that took no significant damage from the storms, and they're down for 30 days. Now think about all the businesses that took any kind of damage from the storms. And then think about all the businesses that took a shit ton of damage from the storms. And just, even if you've got the money, even if insurance pays out, right? Even insurance does what it's supposed to do. It's not, but let's say it does. And just hands you a freaking wad of cash. Again, I think people like finding contractors in Asheville 2 weeks ago was a pain in the ass. Can you imagine what it's going to be like to find contractors going in the future with all of these houses and businesses needing to get renovated? Again, I talked about that when we moved into our house back almost 4 years ago. We had an electrical problem. And it was like this plumbing and electrical problem. Again, sewage pump. Anyways, so the plumber had to deal with it, and the electrician had to deal with something. So I didn't know any electricians at the time, so I asked the plumber for a recommendation. They gave me a recommendation for an electrician. Literally called the electrician, and I shit you not, the electrician laughed at me. The electrician did not quote a rate that was 20 times their normal rate. The electrician didn't say, I can get to you in a year and a half. The electrician laughed at me. And that was during really freaking normal times. So even if you've got that wad of cash, can you get electricians into your premises? Can you get the plumbers into your premises? Can you get the drywall back up and all of those kinds of things? And can you do it at scale? All these individual businesses that have to come online, that is just going to take a massive amount of time. And again, with the progressives, with our progressive government in Asheville, again, our progressive government wants to make sure you don't die in the wrong way, right? You dying in a flood is bad. You starving to death, what are they going to do? And so that's what you see, was it Origin Brewery? So they've been told they can't rebuild where they were. So you have all these buildings that were in the floodplain. Right? So anyways, they got built 50, 60, 70 years ago, when the building codes aren't where they were today. In the US, basically, if a building is already built and doesn't need to be condemned for other reasons, it gets to stay there. Well, the thing is, again, a lot of these buildings were erased, right? So you can repair a building. So if the roof gets ripped off your 70-year-old building, you get to put a new roof back on. If a wall falls from your 70-year-old building, generally you can put the wall back on. If your building gets erased, then you have to build an entirely new building. All of a sudden, permits and all that become much more significant, and a lot of people are not going to be getting the permits. even if they own the land, even if there was a building that was on the land, even if the insurance money does what they're supposed to do and hands them a wad of cash, it doesn't mean they can actually put anything back onto that property. So yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. And again, that's where, what will win out at the end of the day. And you don't know. It's all a bet. Boys and girls, it's all a bet. You just roll the dice to see what happens. So that'll be an interesting thing. Like with Asheville, when you roll the dice, will the musicians, will the artists, will the people that have been building up Asheville for the past 3 decades be willing to take the money they get or the money they have and place it back on the table and re-bet on Asheville again? Or do they take their money and go the fuck somewhere else? Right? There's no right or wrong answer with that, right? It's not immoral. It's not unethical to leave Asheville. Loyalty to a city is an idiotic thing. Only your virtue signalers would be stupid enough to actually spit it out of their mouths, right? The reality is you have loyalty to yourself. You have loyalty to your family. You have loyalty to your community. You don't have loyalty to a city. And again, especially the loyalty becomes a real question mark when you're looking at money. Again, what's really interesting is how little many of these people understand about things like insurance. So things like flood insurance, right? There were businesses in the floodplain that had no flood insurance. But then beyond that, again, there's something called continuity insurance. So continuity insurance is if a disaster happens and you're no longer able to be able to ship product or whatever, do your business, continuity insurance comes in to help pay the bills until you get your feet back under you. Again, if you have people in the floodplain that didn't have flood insurance, how many of these yahoos do you think had continuity insurance? And that's the thing. And so if you look at like the River Arts District, right, think about that, it's not 5 people coming together or even 100 people coming, it's 1,000 people coming together. Like the Marquee just opened a couple years ago. There's at least 100 vendors in there. There's 100 vendors in there. So you have to have, not only do you have to have the person decide to rebuild Marquee, so that's one person or one group decide to put their money on the table, but then you have to have 100 people inside Marquee decide to put their money on the table. And then beyond that, you have all these artists who lost their entire portfolio. Again, the artist, we have a number of her pieces. I was talking with her, it takes her a month. It takes her up to a month per piece that she paints. So even if she has the mindset to start doing painting right now and actually put out good work that people want to buy, right? It'll take a year before she has 12 pieces, which is somewhere around what you need for a gallery, right? You're not going to rent a gallery for 1 piece. You're probably not going to rent a gallery for 6 pieces unless you're charging a complete arm and a leg for them and people buy them, right? You actually need a number of pieces for it to make sense to have a gallery. And so she has to take a year to create a portfolio, and then think about all the hundreds of other artists that were in the exact same situation. And are you going to be in the same mindset? Are you going to want to risk it? That is a question. That is a question that I have no damn answer for. So anyways, yep, so we're here. Like I say, we're here in Raleigh, Research Triangle or whatever. Pretty nice. If you've not been to this area, these are very nice, boring places. If you like flat and you like sidewalks, they've got some damn nice sidewalks around here. And you like greenways, they have terrific greenways. This might be the place for you. There is traffic. There's a lot of traffic. But there's a lot of tech too. It's so nice being around real tech people. It's been so long. But anywho, yeah, I don't know. It's nice. But it's not home. Asheville is home. Like, would I move here? I wouldn't want to. I'd move here if I needed it for my career. I think that's a weird thing. You get to different places in your life. Like, if I needed it for my career, I'd move here. If I needed it for my business, I'd move here. Like, and we may start doing some stuff here with Silicon Dojo. But if those aren't your primary concerns, it's kind of boring. Gotta say, it's kind of boring around here. I miss my mountains. I miss my mountains and my crazy people. Ugh. I miss my progressive hipsters. They may be annoying, but at least they're interesting. That's the thing about progressive hipsters. I mean, they really piss you off, but you know, it gets your blood flowing. It gets your blood flowing. It makes you know you're alive. Can you believe those dumbass fucking progressive hipsters? They don't care if you starve to death, but again, you're like, oh, ooh, wow. Got some air into my lungs. That's kind of nice right there. Yeah, I don't know. I do not know, boys and girls. It's gonna be a hell of a thing. But yeah, if you're in the area, or if you're dealing with people in the area, I think there's gonna be a pretty heavy psychic toll to this. Right? A whole bunch of people realized they ain't promised shit on this planet. Nobody gets out of life alive. And here's the thing, you don't really understand that phrase until you really understand that phrase. And I think a lot of folks, they still don't quite grasp it. They're like, what? I mean, I'm not saying that you're wrong, Eli, but... So yeah, there ain't no buts. You don't get out of life alive. You come in, you do whatever you're gonna do, and then you go out the other side. But yeah, I think a lot of... Because yeah, I mean, just imagine, like I say, Swannanoa, these places. Again, Black Mountains, Swannanoa. I mean, they're just normal communities. Like we could have bought a place in Black Martin's. That mountain's actually really nice. It's kind of like a foo area. We could have bought a place at Black Mountain. We just didn't. I think that's like one of the weird things too. Is like so much of like whether you're alive, whether you're dead, whether your house is fine, whether your house is in the river. You know, really, it has to do with a lot of seemingly meaningless decisions that you probably made a number of years ago. It's like, well, you know, this house has an extra bedroom and that house doesn't have a garage. Let's go with this house. You don't think that decision is going to mean whether you live or die 5 years from now. All right? That's a lot of people screws with them. So if you're in Asheville, be careful about that. Again, there's a lot of psychic trauma. And if you deal with people in Asheville, be careful. Remember, dear Aspies, when in doubt, shut the fuck up. No. People do not need to know your opinion. Take my advice. People do not need to know your opinion about everything, because they might start crying, and then you got to deal with a crying person as an Aspie. That's not fun either. So anyways, guess that's about all I have got to say. Hopefully we'll be back in Asheville next week, and yeah, we'll figure out what the hell's going on. Yeah, it's so weird. It's just like oh. Eli, what are your plans? Oh. Well, we figure we'll stay in Asheville for at least a year to see how things settle out. And what else are your plans? Oh. I don't honestly know. So anyways, with that, see y'all later.